Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 5 of the Short Corner podcast. I'm joined by the usual co-hosts, Joe, Naim, Samir, and Rid. And today is a bit of a different episode. It's not going to be completely Milan-based. We're joined by a very special guest, somebody who was a Canadian youth international, somebody who played professional football in Scotland and made his debut for one of the biggest clubs in Europe, Rangers, as a teenager. We're very happy to welcome Luca Gasparotto. How are you, Luca?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, nice to have you. So yeah, we're just going to talk about the Milan-Udinese match in midweek. It was a bit of a disappointing result for Milan. As someone who follows Udinese, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's a disappointing result for both. I mean, going into the last few minutes, we thought we had it wrapped up, and a silly handball, silly penalty, and the points are shared in the end. But I mean, maybe you guys deserve to edge it out. Although we did have one cleared off the line, we'll give you that one. But in the end, I mean, I think both teams will be disappointed that they didn't come away with 3 points.
As a defender, what was going through your head when you saw the handball at the end?
I still don't know what he was doing. I mean, it's maybe you could say he got a little nudge in the back, but I mean, his hand should never be that high above his head. So, disappointing, especially that late in the game to concede with the last kick of the ball. But hey, in the end, it's still a point. I think a bigger point for us than you guys, but. I think we're on a nice little run right now. They're playing right now. I was watching a bit of the game before I hopped on here. So if they can get 3 points today, we're in a good spot.
In terms of Udinese again, we just wanted to ask, how did you get around becoming a Udinese fan? If you have any story about that?
Yeah, well, it comes from my dad, right? He grew up in a little town in northern Italy, not far from Udine, and that was kind of his local team supporting when he grew up. So he kind of just passed it down to me, and it only makes sense that I follow the same team that my dad, his local team from when he was growing up in Italy. So that's kind of how I became an Udinese fan. More in the past couple of years, I've watched more and more in the past couple of years. And especially this season, I think I've only missed a few games. So it's nice to have that, go around on Saturday, Sunday morning with my dad and watch the game. Something that I enjoy doing. And especially now, since they're not at the very bottom of the table, it's a bit more enjoyable too.
So who's your current favorite player at Udinese? I know you guys got De La Feu, who used to play for Milan. So who do you like at the team?
Probably their best player, Rodrigo De Paul, the Argentinian. But I'm surprised he's still there. Him and the goalkeeper, I'm surprised they're both still there. Him and Musso. I thought they would have maybe in the summer moved on to bigger clubs. But Udinese is known for selling their players. So, but yeah, I'm glad they're still there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they move on in the summer transfer window.
Right. And another question was, so over the years, you guys had Bruno Fernandes, Di Natale, Alexis Sanchez, Alan, quite a few talented players. So who's your favorite player? Like, who would you make as the biggest loss? Does that make sense, as, in the recent years between Bruno, Sanchez, and all these guys?
Yeah, I think it'd have to be the little Italian guy up front, Di Natale, when he retired.
Oh, yeah.
One of the guys that was there for a long time, banging in goals for club and country. It was just a joy to watch. When I was growing up, I would have been a bit younger, but I remember watching the games, and he was always banging in goals for the team. So, like I said, a lot of big name players that they have done well selling and moving on, and like I said, they're known as a seller, and they produce players. They find good talent with their scouting system, and they move them on. And they've been doing that for years. And it's amazing how they're able to sustain mid-table finishes when they're selling off all their best players year in, year out. So but yeah, can't complain so far this season. We're on a nice little run. I think we've had a tough schedule as well, but I think we're unbeaten in the last apart from the Roma game, 4 or 5, maybe 5, 6. So yeah, it's not too bad. Nice time to be a fan right now.
Yeah. So if anyone else doesn't have any Udinese related questions, we're going to move on to the interview questions that we have for you.
Yep.
So Matt, take us away.
Yeah, so starting at the beginning, we've spoken on a couple of podcasts. We had an American guest on, an American Milan fan, and we were talking about football in North America. Naim can vouch for it. Although it's growing now, especially when you were growing up, perhaps it wasn't as popular. So we're just wondering, like, how did you get into football, and how would you compare maybe the quality of football then, and how many people were playing, how many young Canadian kids were playing now compared to now, and yeah, how you got into it really?
Oh, I got into football through my dad. He used to play semi-professional in Canada. I think one of the Toronto Blizzard or one of those teams when back in the day. So he got me in at a very young age. He was always the coach. He coached me from when I was 5, 6, playing Timbits to just before I moved overseas at 16. So he was always there every step of the way. Same with my mother. She was there supporting me, driving me all over the place. But ultimately, it was my dad who got me into football at an early age. And back then, I mean, the main team in Canada was friggin' Toronto Lynx. So, I mean, it shows how far we've come from back at those times. And it's great to see the sport building. A lot more younger kids are getting involved in soccer instead of, going the normal route with hockey. I mean, you just have to look at our national team and the players we have right now and the players that are wanting to play for our country. I mean, back in the day, if you had the choice, you look at Owen Hargreaves, play for England or go play for Canada. And obviously, you're going to choose England. And nowadays, you have players who have that choice, and they're coming to represent Canada. So that just shows how far we've come and how the right direction that we're heading in. And it helps now that we have the professional league in Canada, although it's still growing and still in the early stages. It's a great platform for young Canadian players, and younger fans are able to get out and see these games and want to follow in the footsteps, and it's making them want to become professional soccer players as well. So I mean, it's night and day from even 5-10 years ago how far we've come.
So the next question is, you mentioned that you moved overseas when you were 16 to join Rangers. Obviously, at age 16, when Rangers being one of the biggest club approaches you, I can imagine being a something, I would say. So we just wanted to ask, how did that come about? How did you feel when you got the message or whatever it was saying Rangers was interested?
So it came about, this would have been after the Under-17 World Cup. So this was in 2011, and we just finished playing in the Under-17 World Cup in Mexico. And maybe a couple months later, I got a few trial offers over in the UK. So me and my dad, we flew over first we went to England, and I trained with Watford for, I think, a week and a half, 2 weeks. And from then we drove up to Scotland, and I trained with Rangers for a couple of weeks as well. And this would have been when they were in preseason. So I spent the 2 weeks of preseason with them. And after the 2 weeks, the head guy there brought me in and said, "Look, we want to offer you a 3-year contract. Start out with the under-16s, and then eventually try to work your way up." So that's kind of how it came about. I came back to Toronto, packed all my stuff, and then 2 weeks later I flew back over and started my career over there. So it kind of happened really quickly. But at that age, that's what I wanted to do. And once it came around, I was super excited to start that part of my life and the new chapter over in the UK.
Well, was it uncommon for Canadian players? We know you're friends with Michael Petrarca, so he went to Queen's Park Rangers instead of Pius Trade in the MLS. Do you think it was really uncommon for Canadian players to really take risks and go over to Europe and test out their skills?
Yeah, it's difficult.
What Petrarca did.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, there's only a handful that are able to do it, especially with the whole. I was lucky; I had an Italian passport, so I had that covered, and I was able to move over and live. But it's hard for a lot of players that don't have that European citizenship to actually get over there. I mean, 9 times out of 10, if a coach is looking at a player and you have one Scottish player and one Canadian player, both the same level, they're going to go for the Scottish player. So you have to offer something different. You have to be better talent-wise, than the local players. And I mean, it's difficult for Canadians to get overseas, and that's why I think it was important that we had our Canadian League, up and running, and giving these players that aren't able to play professional overseas a chance and a platform to play professionally in their home markets. So very important, especially now.
So do you think it's more common now with the Canadian players going over, like, Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies made a move over there? So do you think it's growing now that Canadians are trying, to test their skills in Europe to see how they stack up against the Europeans? Is it more common now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helps that, these clubs are seeing the Jonathan Davids and the Alphonso Davies and like, oh, okay, Canada can produce these players, and they're looking more, they're focusing more on the younger players coming out of Canada, as they might not have been doing that before. And they're offering more Canadians trials and trainings over in Europe. And I know a lot of clubs now have partnerships with team in Europe. Look at the Ottawa team and the CPL. They have a partnership with Atletico Madrid, and that's huge. And I think I'm sure if there's ever a team expansion coming into Quebec, they'll have an affiliation with a team in France, and that's great for, in the off season, getting some, younger Canadian players over and training and putting them in that environment, and hopefully they can test themselves against European players in a higher level and higher standard to see where they're at. And I think more and more Canadians are going to find their way overseas. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, so talking about when you actually went to Rangers, a young 16-year-old from halfway across the world coming to Scotland, how was it settling in? Was there any, because I read that you had to combine your studies over there because you didn't go all in on football, and was there any people who helped you out settle, and just what was it like at such a young age, moving to another continent and having to almost start life again and learn everything all over again, really?
Yeah, it's a lot of emotions. It's exciting first and foremost. That's what I wanted to do. At the same time, you're a 16-year-old kid. I just came out of grade 10, and I'm moving halfway across the world, and that's pretty nerve-wracking, pretty scary at the same time. Away from my family, away from my friends, basically starting a new life. Got to make new friends. You got to try to figure out the accent that they're speaking. I know it's English, but it's not English, so it's pretty difficult in that sense. But I mean, since the day I got over there, they made me feel welcome. The coaches, the other players. I lived with a billet family who were super nice, and helped me with my cooking, my cleaning, and all that. So I was with them for my first 3 years over there before I got my own place, and they were a massive help, just helping me settle in. And in terms of school, I mean, I wouldn't really call it school. We went for an hour a week to the local school there. So I mean, it's pretty hard to pass a class when you're going for an hour a week. So I think that was just a mandatory thing we had to do for our first couple of years. But after the first 2 years, it was just soccer pretty much every day. Even before that, it was from the first day I got there. We were training 4 or 5 days a week from 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. So it was pretty much a full-time job at the age of 16. So in that sense, it was pretty cool. But like I said, once I got settled in, learned the way of life over there. Made friends. It was much more pleasant and enjoyable than just being a lonely Canadian kid not knowing what to do with themselves over there. So it turned out really well.
The next question is regarding you debuted for both country and Rangers. So we would just want to know, how do you feel to make your debut both for your national team at the youth level and for Rangers? I think you made your debut at 18.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it feel, and how did you find out that you were making your debut, and what was going through your head pretty much?
Yeah, it was exciting. I mean, towards the end of that season, after all our financial problems, that's where we found ourselves in the. We went down to the fourth division in Scotland, and I mean, it was a great opportunity for the younger kids like myself, to be given a chance to play. And at the end of that season, we already had the title wrapped up, and I think the last 5 games, four of them I came on as a sub. And then the last day of the season, we had our home game, and it was the title day. We were going to lift the trophy at the end of the game, and we had a home game against Berwick, and there was 56,000 people there, and I was 18 years old, just nervous, didn't eat anything in my pre-match meal, just quiet, and walking through that tunnel. Just hearing the noise and seeing all the fans. I think the first 5-10 minutes of the game, that dry mouth feeling where you can't get anything out. You couldn't talk, and it was just incredible just taking in all the scenes. But after the first couple minutes, you settle down and you get into the game, and after your first pass, your first tackle, it's back to normal. And I mean, that was an incredible day, getting to lift the trophy after that game, and making my debut in front of 58,000 fans. At that age, it was just incredible, and forever thankful and grateful for that opportunity that I had. And that was something I got a bit more of the following season, and ultimately went on loan and plied my trade at a few different other clubs in Scotland. So, and then in terms of the national team, that was obviously one of my goals growing up, was to represent Canada, and luckily I was able to do it at multiple levels. Got to play with and against a lot of great players, and travel and see a lot of the world at the same time. I mean, that's a great part of football, is you get to see all these different places and play against all these different teams, and it's just lots of great memories from playing.
There's a picture of you and Raheem Sterling. We reckon that you'd get to beat on him this time if you came up against him.
Yeah, not a very flattering picture. He's leaving me in his dust, but hey, I'll take a picture with Raheem Sterling in any way possible.
Right. There's some other players on that England team. I think it was Nathan Redmond, Daniel Chalobah. So what was it like playing against those players? Like, how different were those players compared to the Canadian team you were on in terms of everything?
Yeah, well, for a lot of us, I mean, at that age, we were like 14 and 15, and we were only playing locally. I think we had one player playing in France. And I mean, we weren't used to, the speed, the technicality of these players. And I mean, they were all playing in Premier League youth systems at the time. So, there was a very big difference in standard and technical ability at that age. And I mean, it was incredible playing against some of these players. And, you see where they're at now, and to be able to say that you shared a pitch and played against them is pretty crazy, and especially getting our first point at a World Cup, at an under-17 World Cup against England. That was an incredible moment as well. And I don't know if you guys seen the highlights of that game, but our goalie actually scored the tying goal, and I think the 87th minute from his own end. He played a long ball, it bounced through everybody and went over, I think it was Jordan Pickford's head. So he was the goalie that day. But so that was something else. If you guys have time, go search up the highlights for that game. That was pretty incredible. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was it like when in that you talked about maybe being a bit overawed by the occasion when the trophy lift at Rangers with loads of fans there? It's a big moment for a big club. What was it like in that dressing room? There's like Annie McCoist is the manager, a Rangers legend. A lot of obviously relegated down 3 tiers to the 4th division. What was it like in regarding pressure, and what was the manager's expectations, and how did you fit in amongst the social groups in the changing room? Like the likes of Liam Kelly were there, Lee Wallace, who have both gone on to play for Queen's Park Rangers. So yeah, what was it like as a teenager fitting into an adult professional environment like that?
First and foremost, they all made me feel very welcome. These senior guys and the coaching staff. I mean, Ali McCoist, the Rangers legend, him and Ian Durant. So they were the coaches at that time, and they made me feel very welcome. and it was obviously a tough time to be a Rangers fan at that point after everything we went through. So, to be able to win that first season, we went down to the bottom league. To be able to win and to lift the trophy, you could see the relief and the positivity among the Rangers fans, after going through what we did, to have that, and, brought the spirits up a bit. And it was, kind of a setup of what to look forward to. And I mean, lifting the trophy was awesome. I think I cramped up with maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go in that game, so I wasn't moving very quickly in the lap of honor. But clapping in front of 58,000 fans, and them singing and cheering, and then getting back into the dressing room and continuing the cheers and the singing, and being in the pictures with all these guys. It was just, it was an unbelievable day, and I have lots of pictures and memories that I'll hold forever from that day.
So you had a lot of loan spells for different teams in Scotland when you were there. You actually played for sort of my local team in Stirling. So I wanted to ask, what was it like, sort of living in that part of the world, experiencing, or going around the country? Did you enjoy? Did you have any favorite loan spells or favorite bits?
Yeah, well, funny enough, that loan spell at Stirling was my first. This was before I made my debut, I think. And so that loan spell was during the Christmas break. So during the Christmas break, the under-20s and the under-18s, which I was playing at the time, they didn't have any games. So they sent me out on loan for a month to get first-team experience with Stirling Albion. And sure enough, my first, professional game with Stirling Albion, I get sent off in the 70th minute, 65th minute in the second half, gave away a penalty, sent off. And it was only a month loan, so I was maybe getting 4 or 5 games in this month loan. So I got sent off my first game, suspended the second game, ended up playing, I think, 3 games with Stirling Albion, but, did well. And I really enjoyed my time there. But it was ultimately the following season where I went out to Airdrie on loan. I spent the full season there, played every game that I was available to with them. Ended up picking up Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year that season. And, that was a really enjoyable season there. Getting that taste of first-team football and playing week in, week out at that level was very good for my experience and my growth, and kind of getting me prepared for that first-team life. And then and at that time it was hard to crack into the Rangers first team, being a young kid, and the competition for places. So it was vital for myself in terms of the development to get out on loan and be playing regularly. And so the following season I spent at Morton, and once again did very well there. Really enjoyed my time there. And then after that season, my contract at Rangers ran out. And I signed 2 years at Falkirk, and spent two years at Falkirk there, and then another half season on loan at Morton, and then ended up coming back to Canada, and that's kind of my time in Scotland. So, able to progress through the youth ranks, get that first team football experience. It was always going to be difficult to crack it at Rangers, realistically. Just with as they went up and the leagues, they were bringing in more experienced players and better players, and it was hard for a young Canadian kid to crack that first team lineup regularly. So I applied my trade in this championship in Scotland, which was a good level, full-time football, and that's kind of where I ended up for most of my time there. But like I said, really enjoyed it. My loan spells and my 2 years at Falkirk were very enjoyable. Made lots of friends I still keep in touch with today, and lots of great memories from playing in that time there.
Speaking of which, center backs don't really rotate into the team much, if that makes sense. So, maybe Fikayo Tomori's feeling the same way you are, because he's trying to get in ahead of Romeo, who's Italian and who's a captain. and he's English. He's the outsider there. So, and on top of that, his position, like maybe the forwards change, the wingers get injured, they get fatigued. Like it's easier to sub a winger or a striker than the two center backs that are playing every game. So maybe he can kind of relate to what you went through. The center backs trying to get into the team week in, week out. It's very hard, right?
It's very hard. And like I said before, if you got two players of equal quality and, one's Italian and one's English, they're going to go 9 times out of 10 the Italian. I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily right, but that's just the way it is, especially in a lot of places in Europe. They're going to go with their, local guy before they put a foreigner in. But I mean, at the same time, it should motivate you to, keep working hard and to get better, so that when the manager decides, who am I going to play, it should be an easy decision to put the foreigner in instead of, always going with the homegrown guy. So yeah, like it's relatable, I'm sure, for him. And a lot of players going to play different parts of the country, and that's why you need to have a little bit of that extra bit to be able to come in and to be able to take a spot away from one of the homegrown guys.
Yeah, you spoke about leaving Rangers, and we saw on Twitter that the messages from the fans on Twitter was all positive, wishing you the best of luck. Like, can you sort of describe Rangers as as a club? How does it feel to be a part of it? Like, is it it seems from the outside like quite a wide family, and how did it feel to be part of that, and how was it leaving and taking that next step to Falkirk?
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing but great things to say about the Rangers fans. I mean, they're one of the best, if not the best, in the world. And I don't know if you guys saw before their game today, they were packing the streets in Glasgow just outside Ibrox. They couldn't get in, but, they were there 2 hours before the game with flares and all that before. So, I mean, it was difficult to, leave, but I got a lot of great messages and positive messages from the Rangers fans, thanking me for my time there and wishing me all the best. So, but yeah, like I said, they're some crazy, crazy fans, and just even at the youth level, I mean, we'd be playing Celtic at an under-20 game, and you'd have 2,000-3,000 fans come out and setting off flares and dancing for the 90 minutes, and at an under-20 game. I mean, it was insane, but it makes it much more enjoyable to be able to play in front of these crazy fans, and that's kind of what you want to do. But yeah, like I said, nothing but positive things to say about the Rangers fans, and I'm glad they're able to be celebrating now. I mean, they went through a lot of hard times, and they stuck by the club, and it's great to see them being able to finally get back to where they belong and to celebrate properly. I think they need one more point to clinch the league title, so that'll be a great sight to see once it comes along.
So you eventually, as you said, came back to Canada, and you eventually joined your hometown team. And just wanted to ask, how does it feel to be able to represent your hometown team, represent Canadian football, which obviously is slowly growing now? Mm-hmm. So yeah, how did that feel?
Yeah, I think it was always a goal of mine. It was always I wanted to come back and play at home. And once I heard of the Canadian Premier League, early days in the works, it was a great opportunity for myself to be able to come back home and play. And being able to play in front of friends, in front of family, was something that I always wanted to be able to do. And I heard of the interest from York. I knew the assistant coach at the time, Carmen Sacco, really well. And from when I heard they were interested, it was a no-brainer for me to come back and represent York. And to be able to play the first couple seasons with them, and to be able to be a part of the new league, and being the only one to play in every single game for the first 2 seasons was very special for me. And being one of the captains and playing in that inaugural match, and a lot of great memories from my 2 years at York, and very, very thankful for the opportunity that the club gave me, and that the league's giving these young players that want to come through and play professional environment. So it's been great to see how far we've come in the first 2 years, and the potential, the long-term potential of the league, and where we can end up. So definitely be keeping tabs on that from now on. I'll continue to hopefully get out to some games and to follow along with the team and the league, and hopefully continue to see it grow.
So, Luca, you have close roots to Toronto. We know you have a Toronto tattoo with the CN Tower. So what could you tell us a bit more about that? Your roots are really close to home.
Yeah, I got it done when I was playing in Scotland. I can't remember what age, maybe 19, 20. And it's just Toronto skyline, just something different, something unique, and representing where I'm from. I'm very big on. I'm a very big homebody, and I love where I'm from, and very thankful for the country and place that we live in. So decided to get the Toronto skyline with some. I got some other stuff on my arm, but it was a very represented home. So it was nice to be able to get that done, and the tattoo artist over there, she did a great job. So very thankful that she didn't, mess it up.
Okay. So this is a question from one of our followers, Farinha. So shout out to Farinha, and he wanted to ask you what the main differences between being a professional and an amateur footballer is or are, and do you think people underestimate what being, lower league football sometimes might be? Because I think a lot of people think, footballer sorted for life. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't really realize the grit and grind you have to go through being a professional footballer. And there's a lot of differences between semi-pro and pro. The main one being, professionals full time. You're training every day. You're in at 8 and you're leaving at 4, like any other full-time job. Semi-professional, especially when I was in Scotland, and I think the majority of the League 1 and League 2 teams were semi-pro part-time, and a lot of these other guys, they're working another job during the day, and then they're going to train at night a couple times. So I think a lot of people don't really understand that. They think it's all glam, but you're training. You have 1 month off a year, if that. You're in everyday training. The traveling. You don't really have much of a social life. It's you go to training, you come home, you chill, you eat dinner, you go to bed, and you get up and do the same thing the next day. And it's a very different life than a lot of people make it out to be. I got to see both the professional and the part-time when I was over there. One of the teams I was at, AirG, was part-time at the time. So, they only train Tuesdays and Thursday nights. And it's difficult to prepare, especially if you're playing, if you have a weekend game against a team that's training 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, and you're only getting, 2 sessions in a week, you'd say there's a big disadvantage there. So that's one of the big differences over there. But yeah, I mean, football is a good life, but it's not what a lot of people make it out to be.
Yeah, I wonder what advice would you give to any kids who wants to become a footballer?
And just the standard: work hard, and if you have first and foremost, if you have the drive and the ability, then there's no reason why you can't get to where you want to be. And if I could go back and do something differently, do it again, I spend more time training outside of training, if you know what I mean, just on my own. In my backyard, kicking a ball against the wall, throwing a ball up and controlling it with my left foot, my right foot, working on my weak foot. Just doing extra when nobody's watching. That's kind of the big thing. And you can, if I could tell a kid, what are you going to do that's going to differentiate you from the kid standing next to you? if you guys are both the same talent level, what are you going to do that's going to make you the better player than the kid next to you? You get what I'm saying? You know, the kind of the little things you do behind the scenes when no one's watching, and the little things that can make you a better player.
So recently, I believe you've retired from professional football, right? I was wondering how are you finding your new sort of adventures, or the new chapter of your life? Yeah, with is it you've become a arborist now, right?
Arborist, yeah.
Arborist, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So I've been obviously wasn't an easy decision, and when I didn't I didn't wake up one morning and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to retire tomorrow. Obviously, I was thinking about it for a while, and making sure I had a plan for when I did retire. And luckily, I was able to get in with an arborist company. This is something I wanted to do, something I had a passion for, and I wanted to find a job where I was able to work outside, able to remain active, and it's a different job every day. A lot of people in these jobs are doing the same thing every day, and I couldn't do that. So I was lucky enough. I think I'm 7 months in now working with a company, and they've been great. They've taught me a lot, full-time hours, and it's been very, very enjoyable. But yeah, in terms of retiring, I mean, it was very difficult. But at the end of the day, I had to think of, looking long term, what the right decision will be for my long term career and long term financial security. And I think the Canadian Premier League, it's still growing, and it's more for the young Canadian players, the players that are still living at home with their parents, don't have mortgages and car expenses, and they're just starting to get into the professional life. And I mean, I know I'm only 25, but I've got a mortgage, I've got a car, and I need to make the decision that would benefit me for my long-term, like I said, career-wise and financial security. So that was ultimately what led me to my decision to retire and to pursue a different career path. And so far, I mean, it's been excellent. It's been very enjoyable. Being able to, it's always a bit, nerve-wracking and scary to, trying something completely new. It's basically like restarting. So, but so far it's been really good. So far it's been, better than I expected it to be. And, it's, you never know if you're going to actually like it. You think you can, can I see myself in this? But it's not until you actually do it that you're like, okay, good. I like this. I'm good at this. And I can see myself doing this long time. So, I lucked out in that regard.
Yeah. So you've, stopped being a professional footballer, but you've obviously, as we could tell by your jacket there, you're still involved in football in some capacity. What's that like, coaching, and what's it like being involved in coaching? Yeah, and what sort of age groups do you coach, and how are you finding it?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing coaching on the weekends. There's a new program here. It's kind of a expansion on the FC Durham Academy. My dad's a coach in the academy, and I'm basically working with this new program called FC Durham Plus, and it's essentially a program for beginners and players that are playing in their clubs that aren't necessarily getting the extra training. They can train two times a week with their club, but now we offer this program if they want, another day a week, small groups, so it's easy to work with, and we can focus on the players instead of having 20 players out, and you're not able to get the proper training because there's so many players. And Saturday mornings I work with the beginners and intermediates, and they're ranging from 7 to 10 years old. And then Sundays, we have a position-specific training. So once again, there's beginner groups and intermediate groups, and I work with the wing backs, the center mids, and the center backs. So I do, I think, 3 1-hour sessions on Sunday nights, just working with these players. Once again, small groups that we can really focus on and target the individual to better help them understand their position and to go into that position with proper training.
Just dialing back to Scottish football, you did play with Fraser Aird, the former Canadian international. So, what was it like? Do you still talk to Fraser, and how was it like settling in with them back at Rangers?
Yeah, we still keep in touch. I've known Fraser for a long time. We used to play against each other at club level. I was in Ajax and he was in Pickering, so we grew up, from 10 years old playing against each other. And then we ended up playing with each other at Rangers. I think he signed for the academy 3 months prior to me arriving, and we actually lived together with the same billet family. We both lived together for the 3 years with the family, and then he moved out, and then I moved out, and yeah, we still kept in touch. We ended up playing at Falkirk together for half a season. We were involved with the national team as well. I remember we ended up playing Scotland in Scotland, which was pretty cool. We were both in that squad against the Scottish national team. But yeah, he's made his way over back home to Canada too. I think he's now in Edmonton for the upcoming season. So be keeping tabs on him, and like I said, I'll be keeping tabs on the league as well. But yeah, we've come a long way together, and it's great to see him still playing. And he had a lot more first team experience with Rangers. He played a lot of games and. With the first team, I think it's maybe easier for an attacker, for a winger to get regular game time. But he was a long diehard Rangers fan, so he got to live that childhood dream to play for his boyhood club, and it was great to see him, great to be part of that journey with him.
So what do you think about Gerard's Rangers? Who's your favorite player in the squad right now? Ryan Kent, Yanis Hagi, James Spania?
I don't know. I'm going to be boring and say they're center back Connor Goldson. I mean, he's a brick wall back there. Their left back as well, Barisic. He's with the Croatian national team. He's got a wicked left foot. So yeah, it's great to, like I said, it's great to see them back where they belong and doing well. And Gerard's got them playing some really good football, not only domestically, but they're now into, I think, the round of 16 in the Europa League as well. So, I mean, it's a great achievement for a team coming out of Scotland, and hopefully they can progress further. And it'll be nice to see them lift the trophy once they get one more point.
Talking about Gerard, I think you mentioned they were also Liverpool fan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Liverpool? And obviously,
I don't like to admit it right now that I'm a Liverpool.
I mean, obviously, us as AC Milan fans, when we think of Liverpool, we think of 2005 and 2007, Istanbul and Athens. Yeah. So we just wanted to get your thoughts, if you were able to see the games, the thoughts on the games, and on just Liverpool in general currently, although they're having a couple of bad months, they've been doing really well the past few years.
Yeah, I think I haven't watched many games this year. Just it's not really going the right way this season. Be lucky if we get a top 4 spot right now, but I don't know. I think when you lose your 2 best center backs and that early on in the season, even the presence of Virgil van Dijk is a lot to handle for opposition teams, and you have 2 center mids playing center back, and it's difficult. It's difficult, and I mean, it's. I've been a Liverpool fan since I was young. Steven Gerrard's biography was actually the first, big kid book I actually ever read, and watching them back in the day with Gerrard and Carragher, Suarez, and Torres, it was a lot of great memories, and it's nice that in the past couple of years we kind of got back to that level that we were once at, and I know it's been disappointing this year, but I'm sure with the players they have, and hopefully Van Dijk back next year, that we can make a run at the Champions, well, maybe Europa League, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, speaking of Jamie Carragher, who are your top 3 players that you modeled your own personal game after growing up? Who'd you look up to? Could be one player, really.
Paolo Maldini. You guys will all be happy with that.
Love that.
him and Cannavaro were the 2 I kind of watched when I was growing up, and he's just an absolute machine back there, and durable. A leader. That's kind of what I aspired to be when I was growing up, and same with Carragher, just an absolute unit, no nonsense defender. Get the job done, keep the ball out of the back of the net, and break some legs. No, I'm joking, but yeah, those are kind of the two I model my game after. And my nono is a big Milan fan, so I remember when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I'd go around and watch the games with him, and typical Italian, just shouting at the TV, and for the 90 minutes, and swearing in Italian, and I had no idea what was going on. So, but yeah, I remember those players, Gattuso and Pirlo and all them. So some good memories watching those games. But yeah, Maldini was probably my favorite defender growing up.
Well, obviously all of us were too young to actually watch the 2005 and 2007 games. Did you actually manage to catch those ones, since you're a bit older than us?
I didn't watch that live, but I think I've seen it maybe 100 times on YouTube. So I'm just rewatching that. But that was a crazy game. It would have been crazy to witness live, even just on the television. But it's crazy. That's just football for you. Anything can happen, and that's why it's the greatest sport in the world. I mean, so unpredictable, and that was one of the greatest matches I've seen highlights of. So just incredible what happened that day.
Who's your current favorite player? Does anyone who's playing currently who you think is great, or you just personally really like?
No, I don't really think I have a current favorite player. No, I wouldn't say I have a favorite player. I enjoy watching the superstars like everyone else does, the Messis, the Ronaldos, and all that. But I wouldn't say I got a favorite player, apart from Roberto Pereira. No, I'm joking.
So another question was, so you're looking at these Jonathan Davis and then Alphonso Davies and these Canadian kids just actually doing bits. Davies won the treble. Do you think he's the only player to have won the treble in Canadian football history? So do you think this could pave the way for young Canadian players growing up? They're looking at David and David say, hey, I can be one of them. So what do you think about our next generation going into the 2026 World Cup, seeing, these fantastic players?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think, a lot of these younger players, that's kind of, it's what they want to do when they grow up. They're seeing the success that David and Davis and the national team where we're at now, and they kind of want to be a part of that. And I think it's huge that we're getting the World Cup in 2026, and I'm sure by that time all this will be done, and we'll be allowed to have fans at the game. So hopefully a lot of younger players get out to those games and see the level and soccer in Canada, where it's come, and want to be a part of that one day. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of scouts over in the UK and in Europe are seeing what Canada has produced, and they're looking for those that next batch of Davises and Davids to make that jump overseas, and they kind of put us on the map in a way, and hopefully they'll be able to pave the pathway for the next generation of players that have that talent and have that level, that will work hard to get to where they ultimately are right now.
Well, actually, I've a side question. What do you think about Scottish cuisine compared to Canadian? Like, how's the food over there?
Cuisine? Oh, they deep fry everything.
Yeah, there isn't a Scottish cuisine. That's not a thing.
I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff. I'll admit that I do like haggis, and I don't know if Joe, you're a big haggis guy. No,
I'm a vegetarian basically, so so
there you go.
No worry for me.
Yeah, I ended up trying haggis over there, and I really liked it. It's big with their breakfasts, and for some reason, so yeah, that was one of the.
What is haggis? Could you tell us what that is?
Sheep intestine, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's really gross.
Yeah, like sheep intestines with some spices and stuff. But yeah, it was good. It tasted really good. I mean, I like to try new stuff, but I'll pretty much eat anything except onions and mushrooms. So Yeah, it was intriguing. But apart from that, I mean, it's pretty much same stuff, just a lot more deep fried and oil. I guess they use a lot more oil in their meals. But apart from that, it's pretty much the same stuff.
Did you ever try a deep fried Mars bar?
I have tried a deep fried Mars bar. I was waiting for someone to ask that, and intriguing. I mean, after a night out, there's nothing better than going to the local chippy and getting your deep fried sausages and chips, and it was a couple of good nights of those.
Top 4 for Serie A this season.
Oh, top 4 for the Serie A.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, you guys can still catch Inter, I think, right? What are you, 4 points?
Just 6 points.
6 points?
Yeah, 6 points now, yeah.
No, I don't know. Maybe Inter and then Milan, Juve, I think. And who's 4th? Is it Atalanta? Is Atalanta still 4th?
I think it's Atalanta, Roma, one of those two.
One of those two, yeah, maybe one of those two. But I think you guys will be hard pressed to catch Inter right now. They're in good form, and I think it'll be difficult, unfortunately, for you guys. Sorry, don't hate me.
Yeah, it's tough now after that derby.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit more about Udine, where your father grew up? Like, have you visited?
No, I never actually visited, but I've only ever been to Italy twice. This is actually a good story for you guys. You guys will enjoy this. So when I was 15, this was before I moved over, and my dad knew a guy from here who worked with. There's an AC Milan academy in Vaughan or something like that, like a little training thing. And he actually got me over to Italy to train with AC Milan, and so when I was 15, me and my dad flew over, and I spent 2 weeks with the Milan Youth Academy, I think the under 16s. And we spent 2 weeks in preseason. So we went up in the mountains, stayed in these little like hotel chalet things in the mountains, and trained with them every day. And they actually, at the end of the 2 weeks, they were offering me a contract. But at that time, I didn't have any Italian citizenship. I didn't have a European passport. I was only 15, so I mean, by the time I think it was like maybe a year later, I got my Italian. The ship had sailed, but I mean, at that age, it was a great experience for me. Being a part of that environment, I didn't have a word of English or a word of Italian in my vocabulary, so it was difficult. But my dad was there, and he would translate when needed to be, and that was a great experience. I mean, they all made me feel very welcome in any way they could, even with the language barrier. The level was completely different than what I was used to in Canada, but at the same time, I fit in, and I felt I had a very good showing, and that was kind of my first taste of European football. And at that moment, I was pushing my dad, we need to get the European citizenship so I can ultimately move over and do this. But in the end, it all worked out. But it would have been pretty cool if I was able to sign with Milan and continue there. But a 15-year-old boy from Canada fitting in with a Milan academy, it was pretty cool.
Were there any notable players in that camp?
I think the most notable name, if I recall, was Petagna. Yeah, he was there, but apart from that, I wouldn't know any. He was the loudest one there. He was like the loudest, the jokester, so that's kind of why I remembered him. And but apart from that, I can't remember if there was any big names there.
So you've defended against Petagna in training.
Yeah, but I was only 15, so that doesn't
right.
Yeah.
Actually, another thing I just remember, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was in our academy, and the reason he left was I think he said that I'm good enough, but they're picking the Italians over me, and I'm not getting a chance in, and that's why he chose to leave for Saint Etienne. So I think you can completely relate to that one there.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, it's very difficult for a foreigner, and especially at the young age. I mean, I told you guys they made me feel welcome, but I'm sure if I did sign, I'd be getting the silent treatment, and they would have probably messed with me a little bit for trying to take away an Italian kid's place, and that's just kind of the way it goes. You gotta be mentally and mentally tough, and to be able to deal with that. And in the instances, where you don't get picked and you don't play, and maybe you feel like you're treated unfairly, you just gotta stay mentally focused and strong, and work harder to get into the team and to be able to show what you can do. So I think it's very common. I'm sure it wasn't just Aubameyang. I'm sure there's a lot of foreign players that go play in other countries that don't maybe get the opportunity that they feel as though they deserve, just based on the fact that they're not from there. And I'm sure it's more common than we know.
I'm sure.
Do you
Yeah,
feel
there's
that's specifically a problem? Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, do you feel that that's specifically more of a problem in Italy or in other countries? Do you think it's just the same thing?
I think it's just the same thing everywhere. Yeah, I think it's all around. It's they're these players and these coaches. They're looking at it as they're not looking at it as a player coming to help their team. They're looking at it as a player coming to take away a spot from one of their own, and I think that's kind of the way they view it, and then obviously they deal with it by freezing the player out and making them want to go play somewhere else.
Yeah, I've experienced it. Well, not myself, obviously. I'm not a professional footballer, but when I was I'm from Leicester, and as well as I'm a Milan fan, I'm a Leicester fan. And you see someone like Islam Slimani comes over from Portugal, and he's Algerian.
Mm.
And he'll have a bad game, and the whole crowd saying get him off and stuff like that. And then you have someone who's homegrown, like Andy King, for example, or an English person like Danny Simpson, who might be having an off game, and it's a lot quieter. And it's a shame that it happens. But yeah, the treatment of foreign players coming over, especially for big fees. I've seen it at Leicester with Vicente Iborra and Adrian Silva. Yeah, they get. I think English players, British players get a lot more time in England to maybe settle into a squad. Whereas if you're a foreign player, you almost need to have that Bruno Fernandes impact from day one.
You've got maybe one game at most to show what you can do, and if not, you're toast. You're done. And it's the brutal reality of football in Europe, and it's tough. I mean, it's tough. It's tough enough as it is to move to a different country where you don't speak the language, but then to have that added pressure that you need to perform in your first opportunity, or else you're not going to make it there. It's difficult.
How'd you like the Scottish weather?
Hated it. I'm sure Joe could testify to that. It just means 90% of the year.
It's not quite a similar climate in Canada, though.
No, at least in Canada, you got the 4 seasons. You got you got spring, you got summer. You know when it's fall, and you know when it's winter. And in Scotland, you could have friggin' 4 seasons in one day. So, it was a miserable bit with the weather, but you'd always get a few nice days here and then, and that's when you make the most of it.
Did you manage to tour Scotland a bit while you were there, or no time?
Tour? Yeah, I got to see a bit. I mean, just the major places: Stirling, Edinburgh, and Glasgow. So that was kind of what I got to see. But like I said, I've seen a lot of cool places with my time in soccer, and I've played in a lot of interesting venues, so that was pretty cool.
What's your favorite venue? Is it the Ibrox?
Yeah, Ibrox was amazing. I played at Celtic Park as well a few times against Celtic in a couple of cup games. But yeah, Ibrox was a different level. I played in, that was probably the best stadium I played at. And Bournemouth Stadium, I played down in Bournemouth. Our Canadian 20s played England 20s in a friendly, and we played in Bournemouth, and that was a nice little stadium as well. So
who's the most notable player you had in that Canadian under-20 squad, with you, who's currently playing?
Petrasso, maybe.
Yeah,
we didn't have a very well-known squad.
Right.
Sam Atakubi's there with the national team now. He was kind of our left back.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Hamilton was our striker, but
right, he's still playing.
But we actually tied that game as well, and England 20s had a lot of good players. I mean, Jordan Ibe, when he was back at Liverpool, was playing. I think their strikers were Chuba Akpom and Orlando Aarons. You remember him? He played for Newcastle.
Yeah.
So they had a good little group.
Notable team, yeah. That's actually his result, given that Petrasco and you were still
Yeah, that was a big result for us. We ended up tying that game 2-2 as well.
Wow. Yeah. So did you defend against Sterling? Like, who were you marking the entire game? Was it just Sterling or?
Well, I was playing right center back, and Sterling would have been on the left wing. So yeah, kind of on my side, but Redmond was playing up top, so I kind of dealt with him. But
he's still playing too. Yeah,
he's still playing. He's doing well in Southampton.
That's interesting. It's pretty cool. So you used to tell your grandkids, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of notable names playing in that tournament. I actually looked back a couple of weeks ago to see who was in the notable names, and I think Zuma was with the French team. Emre Can was captaining the German team back then. So a lot of cool. That Liverpool fan Minamino was there for the Japanese.
Minamino, he would have been quite young, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, it would have been
super young.
Everyone would have been 14, 15 at that time.
Yeah.
So.
That's so interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Do we have any further questions?
No, I think that was it. And thank you, Luca, for covering all those things. We actually learned a lot about how football in reality is. A lot of people do think, it's glam and glory, and it's actually so tough for foreigners, especially, to actually do this. Like, we're seeing this with in Milan ourselves with Tomori and Jens-Peter Hauge. I think all of you know, as he's been frozen out of the Europa League squad. He's from Norway. He's a kid from Norway. And we have no idea why that happened. But, he's their choice. We don't know why he's getting the treatment he is. So it's a bit similar to what Luca did touch on about foreign players getting this kind of treatment. And, it's an interesting conversation for sure. And we're happy to have Luca here. But I think that's where we'll wrap it up. So, Matt, take it away.
Yes, I'd just like to echo what Naim just said, and I'm sure Joe, Rid and Samir would as well. Just thank you, Luca, for coming on. Really interesting discussion, learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and thank you for sharing your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me on. Love talking about football. I love talking about the game and my previous experiences. So it was a joy to share with you guys. And once again, thank you for having me on and the great questions.
That Milan bit was really interesting. I think all of us enjoyed it with the Catania one.
I almost forgot about it, but that was a long time ago, but it was pretty cool.
Thank you, Luca, for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. Again, thank you to Luca for his time. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe and listen on Spotify. And thanks for listening to the Short Corner podcast once again.
Yeah, take care, guys. Enjoy the weekend.
See you guys. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.